Have you ever opened your phone to find a small museum of your own thoughts? A notes app with 300 entries, half of them titled Important. A camera roll where you don't actually take photos of life anymore. You take photos of information, screenshots of tweets, recipes, workout plans, relationship advice, random quotes that hit you at 2 a.m., flight prices you never booked, a screenshot of a screenshot of a screenshot. And then the funniest part? You rarely go back and use any of it, but you keep collecting like your brain is a squirrel preparing for winter, except the winter is forgetting something important. If that's you, welcome. You're not weird. You're not messy. You're not addicted to your phone. You might just be the kind of person whose mind is always trying to hold on to meaning. And collecting notes, lists, and screenshots isn't just a digital habit. It's a psychological strategy. Sometimes it's organization. Sometimes it's anxiety management. Sometimes it's creativity. Sometimes it's a quiet need for control in a world that feels too fast. So let me show you what might be happening inside your brain when you're the person who saves everything. Ideas, reminders, quotes, checklists, screenshots, like your future self is going to thank you for building a personal archive. Because this behavior usually has a deeper reason than "I like being prepared." Picture a tiny moment you've lived 100 times. You're scrolling. You see something useful, a line that explains you perfectly, a tip that could change your habits, a paragraph that makes you feel understood. And your brain has a quick little panic. Don't lose that. So you screenshot it. Or you copy it into notes. Or you save it into a folder called Read Later, which is basically the digital version of a closet where you put things you swear you'll organize one day. And instantly, you feel relief. That relief is the clue. Because if saving information makes you feel calmer, your brain is using it as regulation. It's a coping tool. It's you trying to reduce uncertainty by storing a piece of certainty. It's like taking a deep breath, but with your thumb. Now, one obvious layer is memory. Some people don't fully trust their memory. Not because their memory is bad, but because life is noisy. Your brain is already holding work tasks, family stuff, emotions, schedules, social dynamics, the fact that you're supposed to drink more water, and the random embarrassing thing you said in 2016 that still visits you at night. So, when you see something valuable, your brain doesn't want to risk losing it in the clutter of everything else. And here's the interesting part. Psychologists have found something called the Google effect, or digital amnesia, where people tend to remember information less when they know it's easily stored and retrievable. In other words, when your brain knows your phone is the external hard drive, it relaxes its grip. But your brain doesn't just store facts, it stores feelings. So if you screenshot something that validates you, it's not just information, it's emotional proof. It's a receipt that your experience makes sense. That's why people save screenshots of messages during confusing relationships, or save quotes that describe their mood perfectly, or keep notes of things I need to remember when I start doubting myself. You're not collecting data, you're collecting anchors. And anchors matter when your inner world feels stormy. Another layer is control. Lists are a form of control. Notes are a form of control. Screenshots are control too. They capture a moment and freeze it. They take something fleeting, an idea, a feeling, a plan, and turn it into something you can hold. If you're someone who gets overwhelmed easily, capturing things can feel like you're preventing chaos. Like you're telling your mind, relax, we won't forget. It's safe. That's why list making can feel soothing, even when you don't do the list. Because the relief often comes from creating the map, not walking the route. And if you've ever made a to-do list and felt instantly better without completing a single task, congratulations. You've experienced how the brain loves perceived control. In neuroscience terms, uncertainty is costly. The brain treats unpredictable environments as higher risk. So it naturally tries to reduce uncertainty by creating structure, routines, plans, lists, systems. For some people, capturing information is part of that structure. It's a way to shrink the unknown. Now let's talk about creativity, because collectors of notes and screenshots are often creative thinkers. Creative brains see connections everywhere. A line from a book becomes a video idea. A screenshot of a tweet becomes a script hook. A random sentence becomes a business concept. You collect because your brain is building a collage. You might not use every piece, but you're feeding the machine. It's like gathering ingredients. You don't cook every ingredient immediately, but you keep them because you know a meal will happen. And honestly, that's beautiful. But then there's the shadow side, fear of missing out on your own potential. Some people collect ideas because they're afraid they'll forget the perfect one, the one that could change their life, the one that could finally make them disciplined, confident, productive, healed. So they screenshot advice the way other people collect gym memberships. It feels like progress, even if it's not yet action. This is where the habit can quietly become procrastination wearing a productivity costume. Because saving feels like doing. You tell yourself, I'm building a system, I'm preparing, and I'm learning. And you are to some extent. But if the archive becomes so large that it overwhelms you, it stops being support and becomes noise. That's when your Notes app starts to look like a junk drawer. Which brings us to a really human psychological pattern, the collector's loop. You collect because you're anxious you'll forget. Then the collection gets huge. Then you're anxious because you have too much. So you collect organizational tips to organize your collection. And the loop continues. If you're laughing right now, it's because you know exactly what I mean. Now here's another layer that's surprisingly common. Perfectionism. Perfectionistic minds don't want to start until they're fully ready. They want the perfect plan, the perfect system, the perfect understanding. So they keep collecting information to feel ready. But ready becomes a moving target. There's always one more screenshot, one more note, one more list, one more, I'll start when. And this can be driven by a fear of doing something imperfectly. If you've ever been the kind of person who saves 40 workout routines but struggles to do one consistently, it might not be laziness. It might be that committing to one plan forces you to face the fact that execution is messy. Collecting is clean. Execution is humbling, so your brain stays in the clean part, and again, no shame. Just clarity. There's also an emotional regulation angle that doesn't get talked about enough. For some people, lists are how they manage emotions. When life feels overwhelming, making a list turns feelings into steps. It takes a cloud in your chest and turns it into checkboxes. It gives your brain something concrete to hold. It's like turning static into a signal. That's why you might make lists during breakups, during stressful work seasons, during identity shifts. Because when you can't control your feelings, you can control the format. And format is calming. Now, if you're wondering whether this habit is helping you or hurting you, here's a simple question. Do your notes and screenshots make you feel supported or haunted? Supported feels like, I have what I need. Haunted feels like, why do I have 700 things saved and I'm still behind? Supported makes you calmer. Haunted makes you heavier. And the difference isn't the amount you save. It's the relationship you have with it. Because you can be a collector in a healthy way. In fact, because some of the most effective people are collectors. They capture ideas quickly so they don't lose them. Then they review and use them intentionally. The key word is review. Without review, collecting becomes hoarding. Not physical hoarding, digital hoarding. And digital hoarding is sneaky because it doesn't fill your house, it fills your mind. Every saved item becomes a quiet, unfinished signal. So if you want a gentler way to work with your collector brain, think of it like having a kitchen instead of a warehouse. A warehouse stores everything. A kitchen stores what you actually use soon. Your notes can be a kitchen. You don't have to delete your whole archive and become a minimalist monk. But you can create a smaller, active space. A short list, a single folder, a weekly review where you move the best ideas into one place. Because your brain doesn't need infinite options, it needs one next step. And that's the perspective shift I want to leave you with. If you collect notes, lists, and screenshots, you're not broken. You're not too online. You're someone whose mind is trying to protect value, trying to preserve meaning, trying to create structure, trying to hold onto the things that feel important before they disappear. That's not a flaw, that's a form of care. Your brain cares. The goal is to turn that care into something usable, not something heavy. So tell me in the comments, what do you collect the most? Quotes, to-do lists, screenshots of advice, messages, recipes, business ideas? And do you actually go back and use them? Or are you building a digital museum like the rest of us? Subscribe if you want more videos like this, where we turn everyday habits into something you actually understand. Because your patterns aren't random. They're your mind trying to build safety, meaning, and a little bit of control in a world that moves too fast.